Happy Friday, everybody,
Happy Friday.
and welcome to the Back Catalog Listening Party. My name is Mother Banjo, one of your hosts,
My name is Anthony Ihrig, the other co-host.
and today we are joined by Betty Soo. Hi, Betty Soo.
Hi. Thank you. Thank you.
And you are based in Austin, Texas, but I hear that you are not too far away from me right now. And today I am normally in Minneapolis, so we're both away from our homes because we're both in the Northeast. I'm in the Adirondack Mountains in northern New York, and you are just across Lake Champlain in Vermont, right?
Yeah. In
Excellent.
beautiful Bellows Falls. Yeah.
Well, I'll
Excellent.
hold down the fort here in Minneapolis. Me and Joe. Hey, Joe. Nice to see you. Settled in with the tall, cool Goose Island. Very good. And
Nice.
we have Alan in Texas. Welcome.
Always first to the party often, and Connie from Richfield, Minnesota,
Yeah.
and we got Shelly and
Welcome, everyone. It's
yeah.
Friday now. Officially Friday.
And since it's hot, it seems everywhere. So it's luckily Betty Sue's escaped the heat of Texas. Alan's still there, but Tony, I hear I left just in time because it got pretty sweltering in South Minneapolis,
Yeah,
right?
the feels like was 99, I think, the last time I looked, which, for us northern folk, that's a bit much in early June, but that's why I'm upstairs on the third floor in the hottest room of my house with the air conditioning off. So I've
Well,
got my temperature gauge here. I'm going to watch it creep up over the course of the hour.
well, I think you have some cold beverage, right, to keep you cool on
Yes,
this.
it is a happy hour after
Uh-huh.
all, and I'm going to Munich, Germany here for
Ooh.
the Paulaner Hefeweizen, one of my favorite, just German style wheat beers. I just love these in the
Nice.
hot day. How
Wonderful.
about
Well,
you guys?
I am drinking a local brew to the Adirondacks, the Lake Placid, their Ubu Ale. There's a nice
Ooh.
little puppy dog, an Adirondack chair, and
That's
it's
so cute.
very refreshing. So I'm enjoying that. And
Nice.
Betty Sue, anything interesting from Vermont happening in your hydration world?
You know what? Normally, around this time, I would be cracking open some like Vermont cider or like
Mm-hmm.
Vermont hard kombucha or something. And because, you keep it a little crunchy in Vermont.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
I mean, there are a lot of great local beers too, but
Hmm.
right now I'm just drinking water.
Hey, you
Oh,
got to do it on a hot
Vermont,
day.
Vermont water. I
It's
mean,
hot up here on the third floor. I
I was
mean,
going to say we're all on the third floor. What are we doing wrong? I mean, I'm on a third floor of an old farmhouse,
we've
and
all been banished to the
yeah,
attic.
no AC. I know exactly.
Yeah.
And happy Friday, second to the last week of
all
school.
right. Yeah. Well,
Yes.
cheers to you,
Almost
Anne.
there.
To all the teachers and parents out there wrapping up the school year, that's huge. And Nina Joe
Nina
and
Jen.
yeah, and Alan, my cousin says, tell me you're broadcasting from the porch at Keene Valley. Yes. Well, I'm not on the porch. I'm on the third floor, room number one on the third floor. So he'll know what that is. But yeah, we're really happy to be here with you on this Friday. And we're really excited to have Betty Sue. I can't remember the last time I've seen Betty Sue, but probably like most of our guests, it was probably at Folk Alliance 2020 in New Orleans.
Yeah.
But you've been busy this year, doing the live streams, putting out the music. And I know you have some new stuff coming out this summer, which we're going to talk about later in the show. But
Yeah.
this show is all about the old stuff, the back catalog. And we're going to revisit your 2014 release, When We're Gone. And I'd love it if you give us a little brief bio for folks who maybe are less familiar with your music about, how you came to play music and do this weird thing for a living and what led up to this record.
Sure. Yeah, it is a weird thing to do for a living. Well, I grew up in Texas and played music my whole life, but came to doing it for a living pretty late. I was almost 30 by the time that I decided that I wanted to be a songwriter and play out. And so that was back in the early 2000s, and I was in my late 20s, and really I wanted to be able to collaborate with other people. I wanted to sing and play with other folks, and I at that time the only avenue I knew to be able to do that was, especially living in Austin, was to be a singer-songwriter and to get out there and people would know who you were and then eventually ask you to sing and play with them. So, and that's what happened, but over a long time. But along the way, I realized that I really loved songwriting and I really loved leading a band and doing all of that stuff too. So I have made a bunch of records at this point, a bunch solo, a few with my friend Doug Cox, a Canadian dobro player, and an EP with my band with Rebecca Loby and Grace Pettis called Nobody's Girl. And we've got more music coming out. And then I've got a lot of other collaboration projects that are just kind of waiting to release. So that's
Wonderful.
kind of what I love to do.
Wonderful. Yeah, and lots of cool people collaborating on this project, so I can't wait to dig into it. The first track you picked to play from this album is 100 Different Ways of Being Alone. And I just have to say, leading into this song, this past year where so many folks have felt kind of isolated, and you're such a collaborator. You play in a band, leading your own band. You also have the Nobody's Girl trio project. How is it? How have you been this year in terms of being more alone and not being on the road with people?
Yeah, I think I'd always been told my whole life that I was totally an extrovert. And I think when we're told something that many times, you just come to believe it, But I've come to disbelieve in the entire introvert extrovert divide because of this past year, because I realized that I am perfectly happy being alone for long periods of time, but I'm also amped up when I get around people. So I'm not really unhappy in either situation. But I think this song, like so many songs, came to mean new things to me over the past year. I think, well, and not just songs, but every kind of art, all kinds of books, things that we all loved for a long time, or that I think we came to understand those things in new ways. And this song was written out of my experience, kind of lifelong struggle with depression. And for me, depression has never really felt like sadness so much as kind of feeling imprisoned from being able to do the things that I want to do, and feeling kind of trapped. That's what depression feels like to me. But it can feel isolating. And so even if I don't feel sad in not being able to do stuff, I just feel like, man, I don't expect anyone else to understand it, or like, why do I feel this way? And for me, kind of one of the things that would often lift me out of depression, with the help of antidepressants, was the knowledge that I wasn't the only person feeling that way. That even when I felt really alone, there are people all over the world who feel alone. Like everybody goes through times of feeling really isolated or alone in their feelings. And then, of course, this past year, it was such a real reminder that, like, literally, physically, millions of people, if not billions of people, were feeling alone and isolated. And I guess knowing that your experience isn't singular can sometimes be a great comfort. So I was hoping, when I wrote this song, I really hoped that other people could benefit from that same reminder.
Excellent.
All right, well, let's give it a listen. This is Betty Soo, 100 Different Ways of Being Alone, here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
Dad you didn't know left when you were born. Mom who leaves her child behind at the store. Life don't work out like the plans you've drawn. Had yourself some dreams, now the wishing well's gone. Family can't make things work on the farm. Big city living can't keep you warm. 100 different ways of being alone. What you thought was true love left you wanting more. The girl sits alone on her knocks on her door, and the neighbors don't ask what he's there for. You'd leave this town, but there's nowhere to run. Things you used to love don't bring no fun. Sick of wishing every night you had someone, called everyone you know, but nobody's home. 100 different ways of being alone. The new man in town's got your girl on his arm. The careless thing you said caused so much harm, and nothing's the same as where you come from. But the beat you're walking to ain't such a different drum. Tried to be a new voice, but your song ain't your own. Tried to make a mark, but you're still unknown. Tried to take a chance, now that bird has flown. Left nothing here for you but rag and bone, and 100 different ways of being alone.
Oh, yeah. Betty Soo here on the back catalog listening party with 100 different ways of being alone from her 2014 release When We're Gone. And Jamie Harris, another fine songwriter. So she knows what she's talking about when she says, love this song. And Jamie, we're going to have to get you on the back catalog listening party as well. Yeah, great song. And a lot of beautiful, lush arrangement on that song. Was that a cello I was hearing?
Yeah, lots of cello. There's
Yeah,
lots of
nice and
cello on
subtle
this
though,
record.
rhythmic.
When you work with a cellist as your co-producer, you get to rope in a lot more strings than you might otherwise. So,
Well, I love to hear it played like a percussion instrument in that, like the way that it was applied in this track. I think that's, it's underrated cello right there. It's some of those kind of, I don't know what the technical term is for bowing those, kind of more percussive notes, but I really, really think it adds a lot to the overall rhythmic texture, which was also great. I was loving the drums, a nice use of the bell on the ride cymbal there, which I'm always tuned into, and the bass. I mean, really, yeah, like Ellen said, it was a really interesting, lush arrangement. Piano. What instrument is kind of what instruments are you playing, and maybe what's the makeup of the players on this album?
yeah, well, there was a little bit of variation from track to track, but I will say the lion's share of the tracking was just Brian and myself. So Brian Standifer is an incredible musician. Now he basically does all of the audio and like video type production stuff for Texas Monthly. He does all of their podcasts and a bunch of stuff. And he's been like a rock and roll cellist. And I mean, he was classically trained and everything, of course. And then, toured with Alejandro Escovedo, played with Patty Griffin. He's kind of played with a lot of my heroes. And somehow I think through Will Sexton, we became friends. And I mean, to me, he's still one of my very favorite musical collaborators that I've ever met or known. And we had so much fun making this record. He had this incredible studio in Buda, which is just south of Austin. And he had this like Steinway piano in there. He had this incredible big cutting room. And so I think when we were cutting that song, like we had Glenn Fukunaga on bass, and we had Rick Richards on drums and percussion. And both of them are just, I mean, they're monsters, right? And they've played with some of the best folks ever. And you know, like the Dixie Chicks and Ray Wiley Hubbard and people like that. And they're both super nice. And so while they were doing that, I think I was laying down just acoustic guitars and a vocal. And then when we started adding layers to it, I was like, well, clearly, Brian, I'm hearing cello. And he was like, yeah, I do too. And so he would put something down and we're like, oh, I hear a little more cello. And he's like, yeah. And so we'd put some more down. And I was like, I think I might hear a piano part. And he's like, okay, let me go mic up the piano. And then I'd like play some piano. And then I was like, I think I hear a bunch of background vocals. Like, can you set up like 6 tracks and just let me like go? And he was like, absolutely. So
that was all you singing the backup?
Yeah.
stuff?
Yeah.
Oh.
And so, and that was how our whole working process was. We were just like, go, 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 go. I hear this. Let's try it. Oh, that didn't work. Let's try this other thing. And we both just loved that, just like working off the cuff and hearing something and trying it out. And we were really lucky to have the luxury of that.
Yeah, it sounds great. So where did you record this? Was this in Austin?
This was in Buda at his studio, which he no longer works out of, but it was a really beautiful facility that he had built himself. Yeah.
Very, very nice. And so the songs that are on this record, were they written over a span of time, or were they kind of focused in right the year leading up to making this record?
Interestingly, I had actually mostly recorded another record, and I had wanted to release it a few years earlier. My last record before this one had been released solo record had been released in 2009. And then in the meantime, I had released 2 records with Doug Cox that were all cover songs. They were songs, with 1 or 2 exceptions. Every song on those 2 records were by writers that either he or I or both of us knew personally. And so during that time, I was still writing a lot. I was still doing solo shows in between touring with Doug. And so I had started to record all of these other songs that I wanted to release one at a time. But at that time, it was like, I don't know, 2010, 2011. I had the hardest time finding a publicist or a promotion team that knew how to release a record single by single. And
now that's everything.
How things have changed.
Everything. I know. And at that time, I mean, it was 11 years ago or whatever. Great publicists who now would be like, yeah, duh, no brainer. At that time, they were like, I love this idea, but I really don't know how to do that. Like, I love these songs, but I don't know how to do that. So I don't feel comfortable, with you paying me my rate for me to do something that I have no record being successful at. And I mean, I just kept trying and I kept trying. And of course I didn't have a label. I didn't have whatever. And I just kind of got disheartened. So I was like, okay, fine. Like, and I could have just made all of those songs into a collection and released it as a record. But in my heart, they were still like, I had married them to that idea. Right. And so I was like, well, I've got a whole another batch of new songs that have never been recorded. And I just went to Brian and was like, I want to make a record with you. Here are like 20 songs or 25 songs or whatever that have never been recorded. Why don't you pick a dozen that you think you'd be excited to work on with me? And I mean, that's kind of how I can't even remember if I answered your question.
No, that does answer, because it was a span of time.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
To hear about that, again, that relationship of songs. Something comes up a lot. This whole idea of an album is so different now, right. And if I don't know if the next generation will think of things, compiled together like that. But
right.
I think I kind of think they will, and I kind of think there'll always be something like that, even if it's spaced out in singles. But anyway,
Yeah, I think our certainly there will always be music geeks like us who will want to hear the stories of these collections of songs, and so the other half of those songs that didn't get put on this record, did they end up on other records, or are they still hanging out there
They're
somewhere?
still hanging out there. I mean, I'm the queen of going into the studio, getting really excited about the recording process, and then never releasing stuff, which is partly why I started a Patreon account, because I had so many fans who were like, we heard we saw footage of you like recording this song that we've been listening to you play live forever, and why hasn't that ever been released? And like fans who really follow me know that I have probably like at least 4 records of recorded material that's never been released.
It's like a Prince's vault.
Exactly.
It's like terrible, but
No,
Well,
guess
that's great, because now that we are in the land of singles,
Yeah.
you could just, whenever you're in between stuff, you can just release one of these songs as a single. So,
Yeah.
but I know it's also weird if you've recorded something a long time ago and you're like, would I record it that way now? Because recordings are only ever, right, a snapshot in time.
that's true.
But I would love to hear them. So speaking selfishly for myself, I think you
Yes.
should release all of them as singles.
They'll all come out someday. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, today, of course, here on the Back Catalog Listening Party, we're revisiting your 2014 collection of songs. And if folks have folks who might be new to the Back Catalog Listening Party, again, this is your hour as much as ours. So if you have questions for Betty Soo, comments, any of that kind of stuff, questions about the songwriting, the production, feel free to throw them in there. And I would agree with Joe right there. Fantastic album cover, beautiful all by itself, and perfect for the tone of the album too. We're gonna
remind people what that looks like.
yeah, actually, maybe you could tell us about the artwork before we dig into the next song.
Yeah. So I have had the strange I don't know if it's good or bad, but like I've just always designed my own album covers. And my very first record, which is physically out of print, has a picture of me that a friend took, and we blew it way out and had that like 2000s high contrast look. And then after that, I was like, I really don't like having my face, like my photograph, on the cover of a record. And so every record since then, other than like the Nobody's Girl thing, has just been illustrations that I've done. And they're kind of me and they're kind of not me. They're not necessarily supposed to be an authentic self-portrait so much as like where I feel like some inner version of me is processing things through those songs. That's kind of what I do. And this song was so much about breakdown, divorce, mourning. This collection of songs just happened to be written at a time when I had several friends who were all going through extremely hard, life-changing events. And I tend not to write purely out of my own experience. I tend to write a lot about kind of fictionalized versions of people I love. And so I just kind of felt like that red, black, white kind of thing, which is, I think, one of those reliable color schemes for, I don't know, drama or angst or something.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. Do you have a background in illustration and drawing art? Design?
Informally, yeah.
Okay.
Informally.
Excellent. Well, I'm so glad I did not know that you did all your album covers, so this is really, really cool to hear. And yeah, Alan says love all the album covers, and folks can go to Betty Soo's website to check out all the albums, of course, buy them as well. But we're going to dig into another track so we can hear some of this album. The next track you picked out to feature is The Things She Left Town With. Is there anything you want to say about the song before we dig in?
No.
Perfect.
All right, we'll let the song speak for itself. This is Betty Soo, The Things She Left Town With, on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
got scissors on the table and a clock on the floor. 10 pointing at the mattress, 2 pointing at the door. She's got a picture in a locket of herself at 15. Just one key on that same chain, turning her heart green. A room with a wall-hung sink, a bag full of shoes. The things she left town with, an old toothbrush and glue. She's got razors and journals, all smooth and clean. The lined pages as empty as the sum of her dreams. She's got a hoodie for cold nights and cigarettes for food. Matchbooks from restaurants and late night tattoos. A phone with 3 numbers, 1 brother and home, and an ex-husband who's long gone, left her high, low, alone. She's got $42, still owes rent for this week. She needs 38 more, or she's back on the street. And she's got pictures from magazines, folded so neat. Bible so no one will see. She wears a faded black dress, cotton barely holding on. Seams stretched and puckered like the inside of her arms. Memory of love, barely holding on. Scarred, bruised and tattered, like the skin on her arms.
Betty Soo here on the back catalog listening party with the things she left town with from her 2014 release, which we are revisiting today on the show. And that song, I love the kind of that it takes its time and sort of the space and the vibe. It really like hits at the sort of the loneliness and the, like you feel it in the spaces between those the phrases and all of that. And also, I don't know if that was that a pedal steel or is that just an electric guitar?
The guitar work was
really
phenomenal on that track.
That is Will Sexton, probably my favorite guitar player. And yeah, he has this way of making an electric guitar sound like a pedal steel, um when we talked about him playing on this song, we both were like, you got to do the fake pedal steel thing. He was like, I'm already gonna do that. He's like,
Beat you to
duh.
it. Yeah. Well, and then like Ellen mentioned that the space, like I love when drummers use space to create a groove, and I feel like the groove in that tune was all that space in between the hits. Man, it was really cool, and it did really connect with the lyrics and the vibe of the tune. Really, really great.
Thanks. Yeah. And Glenn switched to upright bass for that song, which I think gives it that extra space too, because the decay on a note on an upright is so different. And um, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
so grateful.
Yeah, it sounds great. And if folks out there tuned in, if you're maybe listening on your computer or maybe you just have the audio on while you're getting dinner ready or whatever you have happening, make sure that you check out this album in its full high fidelity version
It
because that's how we're
sounds
hearing it,
so
and it's
good.
amazing.
Yeah. It's
So you can get it, obviously in all the digital places, and of course you can order a physical copy as well from Betty Soo's website.
She
And
has some with you right there. There it
oh,
is.
oh. So I mean, I'm betting she wants her bags to be lighter when she goes back to Texas. So
Right, and you get the
you'd
little
be
artwork.
I know
exactly
exactly. Yeah.
original artwork with your music. So sounding great. And we should also mention that when you go to that website, in addition to checking out all of Betty Soo's music, you'll also find Patreon, which is a great way to support musicians throughout on an ongoing basis and support them. And I know you have some special things you do for your Patreon supporters.
I do. Yeah. I mean, they get free access to all my live streams and stuff. And I mean, if I'm ticketing it, if I have control over that. But yeah, I give them a lot of, their unreleased videos, their, behind the scenes photos, like tons of that music that I was talking about
The
earlier.
vault.
The vault. Yeah, they've gotten
Yes.
so much unreleased music on there. And even when I'm like working up a cover and haven't, played it out yet or something, I'll record a demo of it and send it to them. And
So you can be part of the test audience,
Yes.
the
yeah,
guinea pigs, the
yeah.
Betty Soo guinea pigs, and so that's a great way to support Betty Soo's music. And we want more Betty Soo music, whether it's in singles or album format. We
Yeah.
want to be able to be talking about the next thing a year from now. So, yeah,
Well,
really good
I have
stuff.
a quick question. Just listening, to the tracks, before the episode, and you mentioned earlier that you like to write kind of fictionalized maybe versions of people and there's a real I don't know I feel the story in the songs, and something that really interests me as a songwriter is the fact that you kind of came to this later. You
Mhm.
mentioned that you came to this in your 30s. Was are you words first then? Is it words first, and then the other second half of the question is like what instrument are you grabbing to create these melodies and to create everything else?
I am I am neither purely words first nor music first. Quite often, some musical idea and lyrics will come together, but neither of them may survive to the end, to the final version of the song. Same thing for groove. I'm often kind of naturally starting in one groove, and by the time I've got a working draft of a song, I tend to put it through what I call the groove machine, which is I'll play it with like a bunch of different time signatures, a bunch of different grooves, and if one feels like more of a fit, one that I haven't been writing it to, then that may end up changing some of the phrasing. It may change some of the chords. It may change the
Hmm.
melody, or some of the word economy. So it's all kind of in flux, until it's done. And I'd say I mean, up here I don't have a keyboard, but when I almost I almost exclusively write at my house in Austin,
Hmm.
and I'm not one of those people who writes, under the tree at a festival or like in my hotel rooms. Like I tend to wait till I'm home and then write. And so I'd say I equally write on piano and guitar. I feel like piano tends to loosen up my melodies more, and have um, it tends to make my melody writing more interesting. So I like that.
And did you have a background playing musical instruments at least growing up? Was that something that you were doing?
Yeah, for sure. My whole family, we were raised playing instruments from about the age of 4 or 5. We all took piano lessons and multiple other instruments. So that was
Excellent.
always, yeah. So like playing music and doing music was always a part of my life, but playing it professionally wasn't until I was in my mid to late 20s. Yeah.
And I see that Alan says no keyboard, but disco lights. It's true. You have some wonderful sparkly lights
Yes,
behind
yeah.
you.
I
So
think
we
you
like
get the
that.
award for the most exciting backdrop maybe so far.
Yeah,
on the show.
exactly. And then Joe says, and this is a apt comment because and questions because we are about to talk about this song next on Josephine. Especially, I can spot the exceptional voice control. Besides natural talent, did you do some formal voice training? Some special coach?
I've never had extensive vocal training, but I have had lots of kind of, I don't know, seasonal voice teachers in my life. So when I was about 9, I started singing professionally in a little vocal group where we would record songs, children's songs for a textbook company. So
Nice.
when you'd get those, when you like
When you're
at
happy and you know
school,
it.
exactly. Yeah. When like your music teacher, if they had tapes or records that they put on during class, I was one of those kids singing those songs. Little sparrow, flying, whatever. So
Yeah, I have little kids. Maybe I've heard your work.
yeah, exactly. So that was my job for a couple years when I was like 9, 10, 11, and then and so that definitely. I definitely learned some stuff about singing and about recording because we went into these great recording studios in Houston. I still remember being like 10 and going into this recording studio in Houston, and there was a piano there that had like sheet music for a Bluebell ice cream jingle, which I don't know if you're not from Texas, you may not be aware of, but Bluebell ice cream is like a big deal in Texas. And it was a jingle that I recognized, like that I heard on TV all the time. And one of my now friends, but at that point, just like famous person, Tisha Nahosa, was singing the jingle. And I was like, oh my God, this is the music. Like they got it in this room. And it was like my first like brush of like feeling starstruck. Yeah. So there was that. And then like when I started singing professionally, and there were times that I just felt like, I feel like my voice should be capable of more, and what am I not doing right? Or I was like, I would see other musicians warming up their voices before a gig, and I was like, I don't have a vocal warm-up routine. And I have a dear friend, Mary Ellen Johnson, who is an incredible singer and vocal teacher and piano teacher in Austin. And I just asked her if she would help me, and she did. She like recorded a little vocal warm-up tape, and we met several times. And I also always had this like secret desire. I think this is the first time I'm admitting this in public. So this is a back catalog exclusive. Yeah. I always wished that I could have been like a coloratura soprano, but I never had formal classical vocal training. So she kind of indulged that for me for a little while. Like we met for a couple months, and I would just, every week go and sing these little coloratura arias with her. So that was really fun.
That. Love that.
Thank you for sharing that. That's awesome.
And thank you, Joe, for that question. That brought out some interesting things that a lot of us didn't know about Betty Soo. So this is what the back catalog is all about.
See, I told you this isn't public because one of my best friends in the whole world, Jamie, is like, I did not know this.
Yeah, I know.
This is like, these are like, the back catalog is like the hidden liner notes, right? Yeah. And so anyways, thanks, Joe, and thanks for sharing that, Betty Soo. That's great.
Well, let's dig into this song that Joe mentioned that he referenced, Josephine. That was actually your next pick. Is there anything you want to say, or you just want to dive in?
I say dive in, yeah.
Okay.
All right. Let's give it a listen. This is Betty Soo, Josephine on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
Another night he'll be home late, lipstick smear still on his face, and the morning will be hell, and she won't want him to tell. When the light go down on the roof, and the spot shines on the bright blue blue, tucked in a band around a delicate wrist, floating in the dark till the hand cues the pianist and its skylark. Sweet falsetto rings in the air. Catch your breath while you stare. His face like an angel singing a lover's prayer. Every Tuesday after he locks the office doors, pulls his tie over his head and onto the floorboard, cruises out of the suburbs into the empty city. Everyone's going home, but his day's beginning. His brown cropped hair drowned by raven curls, porcelain skin stark against a string of black pearls. Good old Joe becomes lovely Josephine still. Every eye closes when he starts to sing, and it's skylark, the melody drawing you in with every tone, the longing that you hear feels like your own, until you find your heart's true home.
Have to wait for that last note. That was Betty Soo with Josephine, and I love what the groove machine. I don't know if the groove machine is responsible for those
The
two
change.
tempos. Yeah,
Yes,
and
I
what was
noticed that too.
amazing was too that it was kind of the inverse of often if there's like a tempo change between two parts of the song, it's usually the chorus is the big faster part, the more this was kind of the opposite, and I kind of loved it. It like made you lean in a way that doesn't always happen. So it was really cool. Was that an idea that you had, again, running it through your so-called groove machine, or was
machine,
that
yeah.
a producer, or did that happen in the studio?
Yeah, that one came naturally from the song. But I will say one production trick that really helps to create that feel and make it feel like it's natural was that Glenn actually switches between electric and upright bass, something that you wouldn't necessarily be able to do live unless you had two bass players. But he switches that from chorus to verse, which gives it that real airiness, that expansiveness in the chorus. But I also wanted, when I was writing the song, I wanted to kind of quote, the standard Skylark, and because in my mind's eye, that's what Josephine was singing, and that was what I will say that was another part of my kind of musical upbringing was I grew up in a family with 4 girls, so I was the third one, and my oldest sister is an incredible pianist, and when was classically trained and incredible. When she was like in middle school, she won piano competitions and would play with the orchestra, like with the symphony. She's just like off the charts, amazing. And so when she was in high school, she was like interested in jazz, and so started playing in the high school jazz band. And she's one of those people who could hear a song one time, on the radio and play the entire thing, in the right
those
key.
people.
Yeah, without even going, oh, what key is this? She would just like later go home and be like, and so when she decided to join the jazz band, we like our parents were immigrants, and she was an immigrant. She was born in Korea, and so a lot of those standards weren't standard to us, and so she bought all these fake books, And we would just sit there on the piano bench together, she and I, and we would just play them front to back. And so she
Oh,
would be
wow.
sight reading these jazz songs and I would be sight singing them. And of course, this is, well before YouTube and Spotify and stuff. So to try to listen to that many songs, if your parents didn't have those records, would be prohibitively expensive. And so the
Yes.
only way that we had to learn these songs was actually from the sheet music first. And so that's how I became familiar with a ton of the Great American Songbook, was from these fake books and my sister. And so I still remember, learning Satin Doll and Skylark and, all these Gershwin and Cole Porter tunes and stuff from these books and sitting down with my sister. So anyway,
So
another
Well,
do you?
transformative.
I
Wow.
want to say that probably gets to Joe's thing about voice control, because jazz, like the voice, I mean, like the melodies, I mean, you really it's not just kind of walking up and down a scale. I mean, you're doing all kinds of interesting acrobatics there. So
And I want to know if some of these, I know you've released some albums of covers with Doug Cox, but as you said, a lot of folks that you actually know personally, not Gershwin. But I would love, have you ever thought about doing an album of standards, of American standards?
I've thought about it, and occasionally I'll do a show in Austin. Like, I've never done it on the road or anything, but with my friend Craig Marshall, who for years has fronted a band called the Lucky Strikes, and he'll play jazz guitar, and we'll just do a couple hours of jazz standards together.
nice.
I've never really thought about recording or touring, that kind of a thing, because I feel like there are so many people who do it really well and who make that their full-time gig. And honestly, I'm not famous enough to like to pull that off. I feel like you've got to have like a much bigger fan base to
Well,
like
and obviously you have plenty of
get away with
songs.
it.
If you have that many songs that haven't even been recorded, you're
Right.
not scraping the bottom of the barrel for material. You have plenty to work
Yeah.
with. So,
Although
um,
I'll say I've never recorded covers for lack of songs. I've recorded covers because I just love that song. Like I don't feel a bias toward my own material. I think the way a lot of songwriters do. Um, like not at all. I but I just feel like the jazz standard songbook is so widely performed already that I'm not sure if I'm adding. I don't know if I'm bringing more to it than has already been brought.
well, I for one would love to see it
I'd listen,
performed here
yeah.
in Minneapolis, or maybe a live stream, so that you can sort of test the waters, because it would be great.
Do they make it
Okay,
into
I'll
your
think
sets
about
at
it.
all? Like, is that something that you've ever?
They
Because that could be a
have
good way to test the waters.
other than those specific gigs that I do that thing at. I haven't really mixed it in.
Well, you
I think
guys
I should
weigh in
try.
out there if you want Betty Soo to do some of these.
I think
No
I think
pressure.
both Ellen and I are showing our cards here.
I know we're biased, but I will say that if you want to hear Betty Soo perform, her own material or some of those other covers that she loves to perform, that you can catch Betty Soo perform every Tuesday online. She's been doing these weekly happy hour shows. So Friday we have you covered for a happy hour here on Back Catalog, but on Tuesdays, what are you doing? You're tuning into Betty Soo's live stream, and she has special guests on, and it's on Zoom, and you can find out all the details on her website. And in addition to that, she also performs or has been performing once a month with her trio, Nobody's Girl, which features Grace Pettis and Rebecca Loby, two other excellent songwriters. And they have a record coming out the end of July, and their next live stream is June 11th at 7 p.m. Central. So a few chances to catch Betty Soo and online, wherever you may be. But I know you're starting to perform out again. So hopefully some folks will get to see you in person as well.
And I'm going to jump on this promo train here because, as Alan mentioned during that last tune, he just said gorgeous, and that was exactly what I was thinking as I was listening to it on my headphones. I thought it sounded great. I was listening to it earlier on just my little iPad speaker, and I was like, oh, this is great, and I was really kind of internalizing the lyrics, and I could hear the song structure. But as soon as I put these headphones on and really listened to it, like that. electric bass that was happening with during the verses, or I mean, it created a whole new feeling. So I just want to do another plug for getting the high resolution version of this. You can go to Betty Soo's website, bettysoo.com, and you can get a physical copy, and you could also download the WAV or FLAC files and really kind of experience it the way that we are right now. It sounds fantastic.
Yeah, for sure. And well, we're going to try and squeeze in at least one more song here on the back catalog listening party today. And this song is called Lullaby. Is there anything you want to say about this tune?
Oh gosh, I see. I'm so bad at doing an intro for songs.
You don't have to introduce anything if you don't want.
Okay, let's talk about it
like
after.
a post song.
Yeah, okay. Afterwards, we'll talk about it.
All right, let's give it a listen. We'll get the album artwork here and take a listen to Lullaby from Betty Soo here on the back catalog listening party.
Say goodnight to the sun. Rest your eyes, your day is done. Draw the curtains on this starry night, yielding its distant light. Say goodnight to the moon. While you sleep, she sings her tune. Lullaby through the atmosphere, so faint it almost disappears. Still and cold, sleep till dawn. Heaven grant you slumber. Till then, its watchful eyes will see you rise when morning has come.
Lullaby by Betty Soo. And wow, I mean, I could just put that on like every night, putting me to sleep. And it's so beautiful.
Yeah,
And
gorgeous.
yeah, and this, so there were strings on there for sure. What there was another thing. Was it, yeah, was
There
it
was
some
like
sort of
some
wind
sort of woodwind
instrument?
or something going on there?
There were all kinds of woodwinds. Yeah. So Brian is playing cello again, and then my friend Joey Colarusso is playing clarinet, bass clarinet, and flute.
Nice.
Wow.
On that. Yeah, he's actually, his main instrument is saxophone, but he's a woodwind specialist, so he can play it all. And funniest thing, so when I was in grad school, which I quit grad school to be a songwriter.
What were you going? What were you going to
Worst
school
financial
for?
choice of all time.
No, you saved yourself some money there, I think.
Well, I was going to be a therapist. I was in a counseling program, so I probably would have made a little bit more money than a singer-songwriter. But, and I was like halfway done. I still look back and I'm like, what was I thinking? Why did I quit?
I can already say you've reached more people already, and
that's true.
probably touched more people. So you
Well,
made the right choice.
I always joke that like instead of me hearing everyone's problems, now everybody just hears mine. But I was when I was in grad school, there was a time where I was just like I needed weird, flexible jobs that would let me read, all my grad school material, and it didn't need to be high wage. It just needed to be, enough to pay my bills and let me read all day. And so I actually had for a while a job as a parking garage attendant.
Oh yeah.
In like one of those tiny little booths, you take a little ticket and I was on the University of Texas at Austin campus, and I was right next to where the music school was. And remember, this time I was like had no intention of being a professional musician, but I got to meet like a bunch of music students who were driving into park there every day, like master's students, and Joey was one of them. And so just like every day, or I don't know, 3 or 4 days a week, like he would come to my garage booth and like we would have like a 2-minute conversation.
What do you got in your back seat there, Joe? Is that
I know exactly. And
saxophone?
So somehow we became like, acquaintances and like hung out a few times, like just with groups of friends. And then we totally lost touch. And then I was making this record and I was like, oh my God, I really hear like all these woodwinds in this song. And luckily still had him in my phone. And I was like, Joey, would you be interested in coming and playing on my little record? And he was like, I would love to. And I mean, the song obviously would not have been anywhere near the same without him. And I'm so grateful for what he brought to it.
That's amazing. And I love that you worked in a parking garage, because I used to have this thought often when I'd go through parking garages and I'd see someone reading or doing a crossword puzzle or scribbling away in their journal. And I'd often think, man, if I just worked in a parking garage, think of all the stuff I could get done.
Think all the songwriting I'd be doing.
And so I've never actually met a songwriter who'd had that as a job, and I love it so much. Even though you weren't doing songwriting at the time, you clearly paid off. I mean, you
time to think.
The networking, the schmoozing. I know people think it happens at music conferences and festivals, but really
it
happens
happen in the parking garage.
You never know.
I think the takeaway lesson is just be nice wherever you are, because it's
exactly. I like that. Well, thank you for being so nice to us and spending your hour with us today. This has been so much fun, and I've known you for a little while, but I'm learning all kinds of things about you today, Betty Soo, and I love it. And of course, we've gotten to enjoy your beautiful record, which you can get online. And thank you, David, for tuning in. And it's really great to have you all here. And again, the show wouldn't be the show without you. This is all about hanging out with all of you, listening to music. Thank you, Connie. And if you liked this episode, then like it on YouTube, give it the thumbs up, and the bots will direct more people to Betty Soo, which we want, into this video. And you can share this with friends. And if you're new to the back catalog and you want to subscribe to the YouTube channel, we'll let you know about our next upcoming guests. And we have a lot of great ones coming up.
All kinds of more great trivia that you'll only hear here on the back catalog.
Exactly.
You guys pulled a lot of secrets out of me. I was like, I'm gonna have to watch more of these, because you probably pull up secrets from everybody.
There have been some good ones. So and if you want to check out the past episodes, they're all on the YouTube channel or on our archived on our website as well, so you can check those out. And a lot of folks make this show happen, including our Patreon supporters. Penny Penny, Ann, Alinda, Bevan, Connie, Vaughn, Alan, Chris, Alex, Becky, Galen, Peggy, Joe, Jim, Beverly, John, Fred, Tim, Sarah, David, Jocelyn, Court, and Dave, our newest patron,
Dave.
who just came on board this week. So thank you. And maybe you, if you want to support it, you'll get invited to special after parties and
Charlie
Zoom
Parr was
chats.
a lot of fun last week.
Yeah, we had Charlie Parr last week, and it was amazing. So
Yeah.
we got to meet his mom. So you never know
Yes,
what
it
will
was her
happen.
birthday. Yes, we
Yeah,
got to,
her
her
93rd
93rd birthday.
Oh my gosh. So
Only,
So-
yeah, if you want to join our little music club, you get more than music, that's for
More
sure.
than just the music. So you can join us there. But mainly, thank you for being here because, again, and thank you to Betty Soo for sharing your hour with us and sweltering in the attic with all of us.
Yeah, we're
Oh,
looking
it
forward
was
to the
so fun.
the live music returning, and
Mm-hmm.
I know that Alan said he was going to be moving that way, one of our supporters, and is going to be able to see you live. And are you going to make it up to Minneapolis
Mm-hmm.
anytime in the near future?
I hope so. Yeah. I mean,
Last time we saw you up in Minnesota was the Minnesota State Fair, which is on this year. So you never know.
I ate so many fried pickles.
Fried pickles, the
And those
best.
and those cookies. Those like
Oh, Sweet
Sweet
Martha's.
Martha's, yes.
evil
we'll
cookies.
I promise I'll buy you a bucket of cookies if you come up during the state fair. That's my promise to you. So there's a bucket of Sweet Martha's with your name on it, Betty Soo. But until then, we'll catch you your live stream again this Tuesday, every Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. on Zoom, and your happy hour show. And then Nobody's Girl, your trio, your band's trio will be June 11th on Facebook and YouTube. And you guys have a new record coming out. So make sure to follow Betty Soo and Nobody's Girl on all the socials to keep in touch with that. So thank
Yeah.
you so much, everybody. And this has
Yeah.
been a fun hour. And I
Stay
hope you have
cool.
a fun weekend. Yeah.
I'm gonna
Stay
be-
hydrated.
Get outside, maybe out of the third floor, and yeah, we'll see you next week on the Back Catalog Listening Party. Take care. Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers.